Call our meeting back to order and apologize for the more lengthy delay than we thought, but we got good things done, so that's good. It's a part of the process. But that brings us back in our open session, and we're going to go back to our superintendent's report. But before we do, I'm going to entertain a motion from Ms. Hutchison. Ms. Hutchison.
Certainly. Mr. Chairman, I move that we, in consideration of the time in the late evening and the weather, that we do items 12, 13, 14, and 21 tonight, and hold the other items on the agenda for our next meeting.
We have a second to that motion.
I'll second.
Ms. Hammond seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. That passes unanimously. Dr. Melton, I'm going to turn it back over to you in item 12.
Thank you, Mr. Gant. I'm actually going to pass the baton to Mr. Richardson, who will be focusing first on Exhibit E for our monthly financials reports. Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, Dr. Melton. Members of the board, in your packet, Exhibit E, Exhibit E. We have the monthly financials for one of the months this year, October. We're a little bit behind on months, but anyway, I wanted to draw your attention to, we're 1/3 through the year with this report. Month-to-date revenues were $7,714,916.53. We had expenditures during the same time period of $16,658,387.77. Year-to-date, we've brought in $28,482,984.80, and we've expended $44,718,159.32. I also have the detail reports in here, revenues and expenditures. If you have any specific questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them at this time.
Anyone have any questions? Ms. Richardson?
That concludes my monthly financials.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. If you'll do Exhibit F now for us.
Well, certainly. We have with us tonight, we have Ms. Dawn Strickland with McGregor and Company, the audit firm who did our 2018 audit. She's here to present the final product to you now, and I'll turn it over to her.
Good evening. I am here to present the audit for the year ended June 30th, 2018 for the district. In conjunction, I'll try to give y'all some page numbers in the audit report if y'all are trying to follow through. In conjunction with our audit, we've issued the independent auditor's report on the financials, and this can be found on page 17 in the audit report. And we have issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which means they are materially correct and in conformity with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. I do want to point out on page 18, right underneath the opinion, there is a change in accounting principle, and this was the district adopted the new accounting guidance, GASB statement number 75, which is accounting and financial reporting for the post-employment benefits other than pensions. This was required to be adopted this year for the June 30th, 18 fiscal year. It's very similar to the June 30th, 15 year when y'all adopted the GASB 68, which was to bring in the pensions, which is the retirement plan. This is the health insurance part of the PEBA with the state. Y'all have to contribute, or you contribute part and the employees contribute, and PEBA has an actuarial study done and accumulates the information and provides the district's proportionate share of that pension liability, and they also for this OPEB liability. So that was adopted this year, and there was a restatement of fund balance in order to adopt it, which is required by GASB. And that restatement is in note 17 on page 79, which in this one we have to bring on the balances as of June 30th, 2017, and then account for the change through the year to June 30th, 18. In adopting GASB 75, the district had to recognize on the government-wide financial statements a total of $198,179,078 in OPEB liability. Now, on the fund basis, which is the basis that you keep your books, you handle your budget, this is not reflected, nor is the pension reflected in the governmental funds. And this is on page 33 and 35. You'll see the balance sheet for the governmental funds, and on page 35, you'll see the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. Your main operating fund, the general fund, which is where most focus is handled because the special projects and EIA special revenue funds, all of those account for the special programs, and the revenues that are earned, the revenues and the expenditures are usually evened out during the year, and any unspent funds are recorded as unearned to carry forward to the next year, which is allowed by the State Department of Education. In the general fund, you'll see you started the year with a fund balance of $38,336,237. And you had a decrease in the year of $1,680,906 to end the fiscal year with a fund balance of $36,655,331. Now, we also, in the back, have the audit report, the auditor's reports on pages 179 and 181. The one on page 179 is our independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance and other matters in accordance with government auditing standards. In our report on the internal control over the financial reporting, we noted no findings pertaining to controls or instances of noncompliance to report. On page 181 is our audit report in conjunction with the major federal programs, which is required under the uniform guidance. And also in this report, you will see there are no findings in this report on compliance for major federal programs. And I do wish to thank the staff for their help everyone in the finance office, for their help in preparing and working through this audit this year. And I will take any questions y'all may have.
Any questions for the auditor? Audit report? Just a quick note, I'd like to thank Mr. Richardson and the entire staff in the finance office. We don't take lightly that there's such a close accounting of all funds in this district. And I think it's very evident with the two 15-year running certificates of excellence in financial reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association, and also the 15-year running for Association of School Business Officials International. I know they don't give those awards away just because you call in and tell them you'd like to send them down. So I appreciate your staff working so hard. And just as a note on behalf of our wonderful employees, I think that's one of the reasons this year we were able to have a COLA adjustment for salaries, also a step increase in the salaries that were going to be there, and then recently awarded the $500 loyalty bonus. And we could not do that without some great savings things that we do, or we couldn't do it without the good accounting that you all do, because we wouldn't know exactly how we stood. But on behalf of all the employees, I want to thank you for that great accounting that allows some of those good things to happen. So thank you, Mr. Richardson and your staff. But as part of your staff here, I know they are, would you ask them to stand up and let us recognize them? They're about midway back, I believe.
We have our Director of Finance, Bruce Shealy. We have Senior Accountant Connie Frick, and we have Accountant Leanne London standing up back here.
Let's give them a big hand. We want to thank your firm for conducting the audit, and appreciate you coming a couple of months ago and trying to educate us a little ahead of time of some of the issues and questions we have. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Melvin.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Gant. We're going to move along now to the Office of Planning and Administration. Dr. Harris is going to set the stage for this, but before I pitch it to Dr. Harris, I'd like to pause to say, for those returning to the board, this is the third presentation we've done about this new accountability model. but since the report card was delayed from November the 15th until the 29th, we felt that it warranted an opportunity to revisit, and also this is a great introduction to our new board members. In addition to Director Holden and Dr. Harris's information, I'd like to remind everyone that the School Boards Association has a recorded webinar on their site that, of course, is a resource for our community and for our school board. But we welcome the opportunity to have this discussion for a third time, Dr. Harris, so thank you for bringing this back for us. Dr. Harris.
Thank you so much. Perfect segue into receiving Van Holding, our Director of Accountability, who will offer some insight, a review, and a brief dissection of the new state accountability model. So, Mr. Holden, we'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you all very much for having me here this evening. I look forward to updating you on the new report card system and the accountability model and following up on our previous discussions about this. As you may recall from previous discussions, our state's new accountability model has three primary areas. We have academic indicators, school quality indicators, student success indicators, and schools received ratings based on their performance in each of these areas. Now, as we go through today's presentation, one thing we're going to continue to see is this is the state's first year with the new accountability system, and as with any new accountability system, any first-year system, there is always the opportunity for revision, feedback, and improvement, and we look forward to working with the state and other districts around our state this year as we continue to make refinements to the accountability model. For grades, just for the general purposes of the board, the first part of our presentation is intended as a refresher from previous discussions, and for our two new board members, this part is intended as an introduction to the overall accountability model. But for K through 8, we have under academic indicators, SC Ready, language arts, and mathematics as a primary area of focus, student progress, language arts and mathematics, and also English learners' progress. Now that specific indicator only counts if a school has 20 or more English learners. We also have our student engagement survey for school quality, and preparing for success is measured by the SC Pass results on social studies and science. Next, you'll see a breakdown of how each one of these indicators, how much each one of these indicators counts towards the overall rating of a school. You'll see that academic achievement counts for 40 to 35%, depending on the number of English learners in a school. Student progress in total counts for 35 to 40%, just as academic achievement does. English learners' progress, assuming the school has 20 or more English learners, counts for 10%. Advanced Ed Student Engagement Survey also counts for 10%, and the Student Success Indicator, SC Pass, Social Studies and Science, also counts for 10%. Schools receive a rating in each one of those areas, and then the scores from the different sub-domains are totaled together to come up with the school's final overall rating. For high schools, the academic indicators are Algebra 1 and English 1, end-of-course exams, graduation rates, and English learners' progress. Just like our K through 8 schools, that domain only counts if a school has 20 or more English learners. For school quality indicators, we again see the student engagement survey that was referenced in the K through 8 section. Preparing for success is measured by biology and U.S. history and the Constitution end-of-course exams, and the college and career readiness indicator is actually measured by the student performance on one of 9 indicators the state has created. On the next screen, you'll see the breakdown of of how much each indicator makes up of the overall rating for a school. You can see end-of-course tests in Algebra 1 and English 1 make up 25 to 30% of a school's grade, depending on the number of English learners in the school. Graduation rate makes up 25 to 30%. English learners' progress makes up 10%. Again, that only counts if a school has 20 or more English learners in the school who took the access test. The school quality indicator is, again, the student engagement survey. It counts for 5% at the high school level, not 10% like it did at the elementary, intermediate, and middle level. The end-of-course tests in biology and U.S. history count for 10%, and the college and career readiness indicators count for 25%. All schools received a rating in each one of those measured areas, as well as an overall rating for all 21 of our schools. As Dr. Melton referenced, there were some delays at the state level with the data files, and after some of those delays and issues were at least temporarily resolved, the report card information was released to the public on November 30th, 2018. A few facts emerged from that release that we wanted to share with you today, mostly related to the overall success of District 5 schools as compared to state averages. For example, on SC Ready and SC Pass, District 5 students performed significantly higher than schools and peers around the state. Our students averaged about 10 points higher when measuring the percent of students who scored meets or exceeds on SC Ready, language arts, and mathematics, also on science. On the SC Pass exam for social studies, our students, we averaged about 10% more students scoring met or exemplary on the SC Pass social studies exam. If we look at our end of course exams, we had about 15% more of our students scoring at the C level or higher than other schools around our state, and that was true in all 4 subject areas measured by the end of course exam. Our graduation rate was 10 points higher than the state average. Of particular note, our students with disabilities graduation rate was almost 20 points higher than the state average for students with disabilities. For our SAT scores, our District 5 class of 2018 had the 3rd highest composite score of any traditional school district in the state. Also of note is we had the highest percentage of students tested of any traditional school district in the state. Our ACT scores were the 2nd highest in the state for our class of 2018. So we experienced a variety of successes there that point to the outstanding work that our students and teachers do every day. That said, we also see opportunities for growth and revision in the accountability model. Our district is working with several other districts and directly with the State Department to provide input and feedback on the accountability model, because our goal is to make sure that the accountability model reflects the high quality of work and high levels of achievement that our students produce every day. We noticed that our high schools in particular performed very well on the new accountability model, but we've expressed some concerns with 2 primary indicators in the K through 8 accountability model. Those measures are student progress and school quality. We have some questions about the different instruments and measures that were used there, about their validity, and about their ability to be replicated, measured, and used for school improvement, and we're working with the state to resolve those. Just to recap all that for you, again, there are 3 primary areas that are measured by our new accountability model. There are academic indicators, school quality indicators, and student success indicators, and each one of our schools received a rating in each one of those areas: academic achievement, student progress, school quality, preparing for success. All these things we received ratings on, and then we received overall ratings as well. Our schools in general, our district's achievement continued to exceed state averages, but we do hope to continue to work with the state, continue to work with other districts to improve and refine that model. Again, it's a first-year model, and with any system of that sort, there's always the opportunity for feedback and the need for improvement and revision, and we anticipate the state working with us and listening to those feedback and listening to those concerns over the next few months as we try to make the accountability model better for all districts and all students in South Carolina. At this time, I'll take any questions the board may have.
Board members have any questions? Ms. Hammond?
I do. I feel like, and I'm sorry for the lateness of the hour, but I think
That's fine.
the students' learning and this report card is one of the most important things we may discuss.
Yes, ma'am.
I had one question. Where you just give us the fact that it's 10 points higher than the state average, or one of them, I think it's 20, what is the state's average? So
But that, you're referring to graduation rate there,
Well,
correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't tell you which one. I was going to ask you the one of the South Carolina Ready and South Carolina Pass. What's the state's average?
I'd have to go back and pull my notes on that exact point about what the state average is. I do have in my notes so that we are 15 points there. I think that is on SC,
One
SC
of them
Ready and
is
SC
10
Pass.
points.
Is it 10 points? I'm sorry. Is it
And
15 points on
one
the
is-
EOC?
One is 50,
15.
the one that's 15 points
Is
is the EOC.
Yeah, 10 points.
Yes.
I don't have the exact number in front of me for the percent who meet and exceed. I'm sorry. I can pull that for you and have it for you by the end of the meeting, though.
No, well, and that's okay, you could give it to me, I mean, I don't, it's already late and we have a lot
okay.
of other stuff.
I apologize for not
But
having
I just think it's not as easy, and I know we can go on the website and it's got, we could maybe see exact scores. But I think with the school board, it's just good for the public, because everybody's, well, parents may do that, but
Mm-hmm.
I still think even people that don't have children in schools always want to look at that. And I just didn't feel like I could tell, I couldn't really see how well we were doing other than 10 points ahead of the state average.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe a percentage would help me better.
Yes, ma'am.
And then I wanted to ask, of these indicators, is it under the school quality that teachers' satisfaction where when you rate, does the teacher get to, because I think it's done for, tell me if I'm wrong, because as a teacher, we do it, but you have the State Department that sends that to all our schools. Which one of those indicators is used to know about the teacher's evaluation of their own environment and their safety and
That is-
teaching part?
That is no longer a rated measure, it's a reported measure. It is reported under school quality, but
Okay,
the
it's
school
understood.
quality rating comes from the student engagement survey. The teacher, parent, and student survey results the state has
Right.
previously administered no longer factor into the rating for that indicator. It is just a reported indicator. So if you were to go to a school's report card and click on school quality, you would find the overall summary of that information there, but it does not factor into the rating. The only thing that factors into the rating for that section is the student engagement survey.
And I may be asking this because I know at our school, and it's be the same for our schools here, so that's where I get the question. But I know that our principal was explaining where, the parents do a survey, the kids do a survey, and some of it can actually be an evaluation of, I guess, how happy they are with the principal or how happy they are with, I don't want to say with the teachers, because I'm kind of after what part of the report card would you tell me I can tell satisfaction of teachers?
There are overall information on there on the school quality part. Again, it's reported, it's not part of the rating, but there is a reported measure under the school quality screen that will tell you teacher satisfaction with the learning environment, teacher
Right, that's
satisfaction
what
with
it's
social, physical environment, and teacher satisfaction with home-school relations. That information is also shared about parent satisfaction and student satisfaction, but again, that is a reported measure, not one that factors into the overall rating.
But don't all of those have so many points to give the school their overall rating, whether they're satisfactory or unsatisfactory?
No, ma'am, it's just a reported measure. It's just there for informational purposes.
Did we have any schools unsatisfactory?
On the student engagement survey,
any
again,
part of it.
again, those, the measures you're referring to, those state surveys, did not factor into that rating. The only thing that factored into that rating was the student engagement survey. So I can't say that we had schools that scored unsatisfactory on the parent, student, and teacher surveys. That wasn't how that was calculated. That only came from the student engagement survey.
Well, overall, if I'm reading this right, at the end, there's an overall summative rating of a school.
Oh, you're
correct?
talking about the overall sum of the
Yeah,
rating, not
yeah.
for school quality. You're
No,
talking about the overall sum.
No, I'm sorry, I jumped on you.
I apologize.
My husband said I do that. But I do want to, I want to get back to the last page. And it's overall rating, the summative. So were all of schools in District 5, all of them got a high rating?
No, ma'am, we had a few schools that did not score average, good, or excellent. We had 2 schools that scored unsatisfactory and 3 that scored below average.
Were they all in one same area?
No, ma'am, I think they're spread out
Or one
geographically.
cluster.
But I think overall, we have some concerns with how those measures were calculated, specifically with student progress and school quality. We're a district that believes in the academic growth of all students. It's a process we focus on through our data teaming. It's a process we focus on through identifying areas of instructional achievement that we want to improve. Our teachers and administrators are committed to the improvement of the academic outcomes for our students. And we have data that we think supports the academic growth of our students. And the student progress metric, as it's currently configured, does not necessarily match up with the results that we see on a daily and annual basis with our students. And the student engagement survey, you've referenced the student surveys that are completed and administered by the state. Our student survey responses don't necessarily match up with the student engagement survey that the state administered this year. So we've raised some questions about the validity of that measure. The state has also raised its own questions about the validity of that measure as well.
So we have some recourse about some of your questions, Dr. Melton.
Ms.
I wanted
Hammond,
to
if
hear that.
if you don't mind, Mr. Holden, Mr. Holden's a little bit passionate about his research and his inquiry into this conversation. So If we'd like to stay to midnight, Mr. Holden could talk
I
about
might
this
do
until
that.
then if Dr. Harris were to permit it. I suspect the card may be just about to come out. And how many Coke Zeros have you had, Mr. Holden?
Are we counting bottles? Are we counting the 32?
My point is made. So
Yeah.
if I may interject here, tomorrow, Mr. Thomas has the fortune of hosting Parents' Cabinet.
And
And
they'll wanna know.
I've told Dr. Harris and Mr. Holden, tomorrow's Parent Cabinet will be a success if we inform and engage our parent leaders to have an opinion and to voice their
To the
concerns.
State Department, correct? That's what I-
Last Thursday, Superintendent Spearman said to our superintendent's meeting that meets to the state that she is open and is welcoming what she called constructive criticism. She didn't say feedback, she said constructive criticism, that's her phrase. So it is my commitment for School District 5 that we give the feedback. If we were to talk about our 6 Title I elementary schools, 4 of them scored average. That's celebratory. If you were to look at schools that have historically had academic excellence, there are some that have struggled because of the growth model. When you already have a high-achieving school,
hard to go
it's
up.
hard for them to keep pace with the achievement for the mean average. And the mean, of course, if you say 12 schools, this is their score divided by 12, that's your mean average. So here we go with Moses Central tendency, Director Holden. Using his language right now. So because of that, if we look at our mean score, because our schools are so high performing, they may not be able to keep the pace with the rest of the mean average across the state. So those high performing schools are penalized for being high performing. So we want to make sure that we engage and inform our parents. So tomorrow by 1:30, we will have had a successful Parents' Cabinet if we have parents engaged, taking part to give feedback on the online portal that the state has open until early January. I've not heard a definitive date of when that closes. We're trying to confirm when that is. I've heard mid-January. I'm not sure when mid is. We want to make sure we confirm that. So that's something Dr. Harris and Mr. Holden are working on. But we can bring back reports to you all as this unfolds. But it is the first year. We want to make sure we're consistent to say first year. Remember, there was a delay because there was
I remember
concern
that.
about the validity. So notice we have not gotten out in front to toot our horn nor scream alarm, because we are not confident that this matches with our measurements that we do with our map testing and other indications that we use. So I'm sure you all have many questions. We do too. But we're going to make sure we get vocal and we're going to get engaged because this is public education and we are fighting for it.
And I appreciate that. That was the point I was getting to.
Yes, ma'am.
I knew that I would like for you to have had an opportunity to say that.
Thank you for the
we had
opportunity.
problems with it.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members?
Oh,
That's
my
it.
apologies.
You good?
Mr. Gant, that completes the superintendent's report.
We've had so many adjustments, I wasn't moving until you told me that, so we're good. And I overlooked something a little while ago, and these folks aren't here, they're students that help Ashland Langdon at the center in his media class, but they record, or a student volunteer records almost every meeting. And tonight we had Caitlin Johnston and Lucas Nash, and 2 weeks ago we had Houston Moore at our last meeting. So if you'll tell them that we thank them, Ashland, we would really appreciate it. And we'd like, before we leave tonight, I'll ask Mr. Cates to give you one of our District 5 pins that we'd like for them to have for helping us out. We do appreciate that. I'm sorry if didn't get that done while they were here. That brings us to our public participation.